Welcome to Techforce Africa, where we look at the important issues that are affecting technology businesses in Africa. Now, innovation is key to Africa's future, and the future of innovation is digital. Research firm IDC actually predicts that growth in the digital economy will outpace non-digital GDP by a factor of 4. But this lightning fast change comes with new demands on the workforce, and Africa's workforce must develop some of those critical skills to support that particular transformation. This week, we're excited to chat with Themba, Chekala, who is from Bluesky, a cloud technology agency with a unique approach to developing talent. And then we're also joined by Ursula, who is a talent activist and leader in South Africa. They're going to be talking to us about what skills will be needed in the next 5 years, how we can use this particular moment to make up ground, when it comes to diversity, and how businesses can rapidly upskill their workforces to meet some of these opportunities at the moment. Now, as Chief People Officer over at Bluesky, Themba oversees an academy that actually takes talent from zero to fully fledged cloud consultant in 180 days. That's 6 months, and he's actually seen both traditional and unconventional students thriving, with this particular model, and has advice on the balance of STEM and soft skills needed for a new era, and which unique skills today's South African youth actually bring to the table. Ursula has actually seen it all from her time as a human capital partner for Deloitte, and later overseeing technical training colleges, project management, disability and ICT training units for AdCorp Group, and now as a talent program manager over at Salesforce. She also played a significant role in creating the Tech NGO, which recruits the brightest talent into teaching to build South Africa's future. Welcome, Ursula. Welcome, Themba.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Now, we're going to have quite a great discussion, around this issue of talent, what the future of the workforce looks like, and what the skills of the future look like. But before we get the ball rolling, on that particular discussion, we actually start off all our shows with a little bit of an icebreaker just to get the blood flowing. We're going to start, with the lady in the room. Late or in advance?
In advance.
Late or in advance?
In advance.
Okay, cool. City or countryside?
City.
Countryside.
All right. Learning or sharing?
Both.
Both. Okay. We'll accept that answer.
Sharing.
Sharing. Okay. Twitter or LinkedIn?
LinkedIn.
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 Okay. Open space or office?
Open space.
Open space.
Okay. And then mail or phone?
Phone.
Okay.
Phone.
Phone. Okay. It looks like we have alignment on at least 5, out of 6 of these points. So I think we're definitely going to be having, a really great discussion for today, looking at what's actually going on in this knowledge economy. To get things rolling, this one is, the two of you. We want to start off talking about who will be affected. Right now, some people probably think they're okay, but things are always changing. So do you think that, the people in the knowledge economy are the only ones that need to upskill? Are they the only ones? Or do you see that, the impact of transformation is something that's going to affect us all across the board? Ursula, I'm going to start with you.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Every single one of us is affected. And every single one of us is going to be affected every single day going forward. So there's nobody that's excluded from this journey. And therefore, the need for us to get everybody on board and everybody rowing in the same direction becomes more and more of an imperative every single day. And we have a lot of work to do in that space in Africa.
Themba, she says we're all not safe. Your take on that one?
So if we're not safe, right, then I guess the mandate is to make sure that we're all comfortable. We need to stop seeing digital transformation and technology as this abstract thing that's a little bit separate to us. And the sooner we can get more people feeling that way, the better off we'll be. I mean, the technology is only going to go one way. And it's our responsibility to make sure that as few people are left behind as possible.
I think it's quite clear, just as a baseline of where we're beginning today's discussion from what both of you are saying, to say that, the skills issue is something that's affecting everyone. Looking, gazing into the crystal ball, looking 5 years into the future, what type of skills gaps do you sort of see today as we sort of, look ahead? Themba, I'm going to start with you on this one, since you are, helping with those pipelines. What are you seeing right now?
So I think a big thing is access. The earlier you get to play with or get your hands on technology or the concepts around technology, the better. I mean, in 1995, I was at university and I was doing first year with somebody who was seeing a traffic light for the first time in Cape Town. And they were 18, right? And the same sort of legacy continues now, right? If you haven't seen a smartphone or a digital device until you come of age, you're chasing people that have been working with these things for 7-8 years already. And I think that's the big challenge. So access is key, because that's the ticket to the game. You can't dip your toes in the pool until you can get to a pool. And that's the same thing that's how I see it from a digital transformation perspective.
Ursula?
We've moved into a space where learning is no longer an event. And we have to get comfortable with a completely new relationship with learning. And that is learning in the flow of work. So when we look at what skills are required in the future, we're probably seeing a shelf life of technical skills of about 18 months. We'd look at some of the research from the World Economic Forum. I think, between 40 plus % of organizations will have to, get very orientated with this changing organization, changing job architecture, changing the way we do business. I mean, Salesforce is a perfect, example of that. And I think if we had to choose what is the most important thing we need to have available to us from a skill perspective in the next 5 years, is what we call learning agility and that ability to learn.
I like that, learning agility.
So if you had to choose over critical thinking skills and all of the incredible competencies behaviorally, technically that we see, if we do not get comfortable with learning and making friends with this thing called learning agility, we will be left behind. That's even if we are in the front seat at the moment. If we don't keep going with this, we are going to be left behind. And I think if you just look at Salesforce as a point in case, Salesforce has 3 releases a year. That means every 4 months, it's upgraded. There is nothing static about Salesforce. And there's nothing static about technical or digital skills. And hence this new orientation and this new relationship with how we learn and what we have to do in the flow of work and how we have to, find our passion and make learning a different fun thing. I think that becomes really important.
Let's put the learning agility to the test for a moment. We're still gazing into our crystal ball. It's 5 years from now. What type of skills gaps do you think emerge, 5 years from now? And you've already started identifying some of the issues being faced today, but how do businesses better than plan, to fill some of those gaps continually so that in 5 years' time, they are in the right place?
We live in what they call a VUCA world, which is volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguity. I almost refer to it as just trying to work our way in the dark, okay? So when we see shelf life of skills, lessening and, the time that you need to know what you need to know, is being shortened. Behavioral skills 2 to 3 years, depending. We have to start to very importantly, obviously, cloud technology is really important. If we just look at what's going on from a Salesforce point of view, we're implementing our first health cloud at the moment in South Africa. We have not one health cloud skill in the country. Okay, so if we start to see how Salesforce is implicating and transforming industries, we can start with the industries and look at the different sectors, financial institutions, and obviously insurance. They've, have led the way, but we're now starting to see, obviously, a lot of these industries now starting to follow suit. But it's the behavioral skills, which we actually see are becoming far more important than the technical skills.
Yeah.
So how do we deal with the darkness or this unknown in our different organizations?
Yeah.
How do you function in the absence of a job spec, although we do have them in our contracts, okay? The reality is we do many, many different things on a day-to-day basis, and that will even change in the next couple of weeks. So being able to be comfortable with this constant change,
Yeah.
being able to have this learning agility and this new relationship with learning and the flow of work,
Yeah.
and also being able to match those skills that we need with a little bit of passion. So what we're also seeing with futurists is that passion is actually also becoming quite an important, almost like a little bit of an element to problem solving. Because if you're not passionate about something, we have no desire in the unknown to solve the problem. So, there's a lot of those things that we need to consider. But behavioral skills, as in your communication, obviously the different business skills, communication, problem solving, project management, business analysis skills, etc. All of those kind of things are really, really important in terms of what we are needing going forward. So it's not about what we need in the next 5 years. This thing is changing all the time. So let's rather get comfortable with this continuous change now, because 5 years, anything can happen in 5 years.
Yeah. And it's true, anything can happen, in the next 5 years. And Themba, I wanted to get your sense, right? Because Ursula is talking quite a bit about the type of thinking that's adaptable, that's agile, a way of thinking rather than, just some book knowledge. And one of the things that you mentioned earlier on is, looking beyond just your typical STEM and looking towards power skills. What and how do you define, these power skills?
Yeah, and again, touching on, following on from Ursula's line of thought around walking around in the dark, right? You have to pick up some behaviors and become comfortable with some counterintuitive things. The best thing to do when you're lost in the dark is actually to close your eyes and awaken your other senses, right? Your hearing, your smell, your taste. And I think that's what this world is forcing us to do. It's going, you have this traditional skill set that might be slightly out of whack with what's coming.
Yeah.
So you take STEM, right? Science, technology, and maths. Make it STEAM. Add art in there. Because the emotive component, right? And one of the key power skills that I saw listed about 2 days ago in a Harvard Business Review article was joy.
Is that a skill?
It's a power skill. And not only is it not being called a soft skill, it's being called a power skill. Because if something brings you happiness, you are more likely to do that thing more often. Right? And we've seen it. I have friends that go to gym. I clearly don't. They get a certain sense of joy, and it's probably a chemical dopamine reaction, but they get satisfaction from it. And we need to start getting comfortable with those things that classically would have made us uncomfortable. Watching the way my kids learn. Sit down and do your homework between 7 and 9. I've failed at that for the last 5 years. Guys, focus on the outcome, and we will go catch a movie on Saturday. All homework done during the week without me checking in on them, but I have to wake up on Saturday to go watch a movie. So if we take that into the academy context, we're no longer just testing for technical upside. We're looking for grit. We're looking for resilience. And then history becomes important. Well, what are the leading indicators for the fact that when Nthabi Singh is not successful on her first attempt on her first cert, that she'll bounce back? What happens to Jabu, who gets it right the first time and is really proud of his cert, and then at midnight on the day that he's written the cert, he has to go do a maintenance update and write again, right? Because he was great yesterday. The next day, whilst he was sleeping, he was behind.
Yeah.
How does he wake up that morning and go, okay, let me go back at it?
Yeah.
And those are the kind of things that we need to start looking at. So I think technical aptitude is almost being assumed, and I think it will be subsumed in the next 5 years. The things that set people apart are those power skills, and Ursula has touched on them. Communication, mindfulness, grit, curiosity, constant curiosity, and being able to then flex that in the workspace to create a community of people that, I mean, I don't even think we'll call people workers or employees in the next 10 years. It'll be something else, passion pursuers. Like that's who we want in our organization. That's what the job spec will say. Like come in here and swing to your strengths, forget your developmental areas, which is what we classically focus on. Themba sucks at Excel, let's send him on Excel training. Ignore the fact that he's really great at visualization, right? And he might be better suited to doing business analysis than looking at lines of code.
I feel like I wouldn't be doing this discussion justice if I didn't come back to this joy aspect that you've been bringing on. I remember a couple of years ago, I believe it was Denzel Washington in The Great Debaters who said, we do the things that we have to do so that we can do the things that we want to do. Is this that type of thing where people are identifying that aspect, or is it simply discarding the things that a person is not passionate about?
Sure, that's a deep question. But I do think life is too short to spend sharpening skills on something that you don't want to do, right? And luckily, I think the common theme here is that people are being allowed to do less of the things that they don't want to do and focusing more on the things that they do want to do. And I think that there's a valuable truth there. And the things that I find absolutely soul destroying about my job are the things that somebody gets up for in the morning in a parallel universe or maybe just down the road. Now, if you could employ both of us, you then have two people that are excited about a full job. You leverage those in the organization. It's about finding that passion early.
But can I also just add on the joy? So what does joy actually do? So what we're also seeing in this beautiful world of the technology and digital is it's almost that the human is actually also coming alive. So joy has a direct correlation to employee engagement. Employee engagement has got a direct correlation to the bottom line. And that has a direct correlation to the success of the business. So if we're not interested in our people's well-being, if we're not interested in their happiness at work, if we're not interested in their joy, the business ultimately suffers. You know, so I think the connection, and I think this real synergy between employee engagement and what causes these emotional contracts with an organization. It's not a written thing. It's an emotional contract that we have that induces my happiness or my joy or my complete commitment to this organization. That is what is the trigger for your business to grow and your bottom line getting healthier and healthier.
With the things that both of you are saying, right, we've accepted the fact that whatever skills are needed today will most likely not be as valuable, or will at least be positioned differently in 5 years' time at the very least. And there needs to be that adaptability, the agility that we're talking about. But there's also, as much as we talk about the need to do certain things, right, trying to get the message across about urgency. You know, sometimes in the business world, it can be, a slow, moving process. So over the COVID-19 pandemic, there have been a lot of changes, things like remote work, looking at greater amounts of digital transformation and investment, in technology. When it comes to the skills issue that we're talking about right now, is this a slow burn or is this a fire? Ursula, just interested to get your take before.
I think the first thing that we're certainly seeing is our language has moved from a job description or a job profile to skills. okay? And let's not forget, we're not switching off the skills that we've got today. Skills are transferable. So the skills that I did when I waitressed 25 years ago are skills that I still am able to utilize today. So it's not an on-off switch when we talk about skills, on this taxonomy of skills. It's about an evolution that we start to build on the skills that exist. We don't put them in a drawer and say goodbye, okay? So this is an evolving continuum that becomes exceptionally exciting, because also the skills that you require are different to the skills Themba requires, are different to the skills I require. We might have all gone to the same school, we might have all studied the same thing, and we might all be in the same organization doing the same job. We need different things. So this, the construct of what skills look like and the unpacking of that, and that it's not an on-off, it's a building and a continuum, and almost like this, a little bit of an underground web that starts to emerge and starts to, you know, really become sophisticated over time, and then starting up a new skill, and, you know, so, and I think that's what we are as human beings, you know, so it's evolving. Our skills are evolving, and as long as we can build on the skills that exist today, that's important. You know, so we see some of the redundant skills that are that have been suggested in the World Economic Forum are accountants and lawyers, and we go, are you crazy? Okay, so we're not saying that the skills of an accountant and a lawyer are going to be put in a drawer and never been used again. Those skills are being upgraded. So artificial intelligence, machine learning has become a significant contributor to the existing skills that are in those very important professions. So I think that's an important sort of correlation that we've got to recognize, that this thing of skill is actually very exciting. And as we mature as organizations and get more comfortable with what skills are required, we're going to see a lot of different things start to emerge.
There's a lot that's been said, and I was seeing you nodding your head, you know, the entire time.
No, it's absolutely right. I take a little bit of a different view on it as well, right?
Yeah.
So and we see it, and I mean this lovingly and respectfully, with the kids that we take in, right? And to Ursula's point, there are some skills that are foundational, right? So if you went to tertiary, or if you were ever in a boarding school, right? Whether you were in fine art or medicine, you woke up in the morning, had breakfast, jumped on a bus to get to school, attended lectures on time. Yeah. Those are baseline skills, right? Around self-management, time management, awareness. You know, whether you're sitting on the stairs socializing or working in a syndicate, you're teaming. And those skills, especially for emerging young talent, are critical. So getting to work on time, delivering a deliverable within a deadline, those are immutable, necessary foundational skills. Yeah. They unlock your ability to then abstract upwards the hierarchy of actualization in terms of the skills. It would be pointless for me to have 5 certs and know how to elicit user requirements, but I can't rock up to a team session on time. And in this environment, and especially in the South African context, some of those base skills are not taught in a traditional manner. I mean, not 20 kilometers from where we're filming this, there's a township where 4-year-old kids are sent to the shop carrying cash 2 blocks down to go buy bread. I wouldn't send my 11-year-old son 2 blocks down the road with cash to go buy bread, right? Yeah. But necessity creates this kind of environment where it's assumed, because if we don't send the 4-year-old, there's no bread. Yeah. Same thing with skills. If I don't go out and get those skills, I can't help lift myself out of the situation that I'm currently living in, or I get left further behind in this digital divide.
And that's why, the foundation, it's very important what Themba's saying, is the baseline of skill. Yeah. So let's just put it into context in terms of our education system. Yeah. 30% pass mark for maths is not a good base to start with. Okay? Yeah, so we also need to reimagine what does that set of baseline skills look like that are going to be fit for purpose in the now or the new world of work. And we have a lot of work to do as South Africa in that regard. And businesses have become educationalists, whether we like it or not, is because there's a lot of work that we're going to have to do, or that we are doing, that doesn't get, that doesn't necessarily always get catered for in the education system. So I think, there is an opportunity around the reimagining of what the education system needs to look like as this baseline of what the world of work requires.
Yeah.
And I think excellence and that ability to get to that point is very, very important as well. But those base skills are key, absolutely key.
I mean, going back to the program that we run, for the first 3 months, you have to come to the office every day. Not because it's important for delivery, but it's important in terms of the discipline of getting to a place at a specific hour to do specific things.
Yeah.
We loosen the reins a little bit as time goes on, and then eventually they go fully hybrid. But once that discipline of knowing that it takes 30 minutes for me to get from wherever I stay to the office on time, you've now built a different set of muscle memory, so that when you're doing work at a client, you begin to think that way.
Yeah.
And you go, client is 15 minutes further than work is. I need to do things 15 minutes earlier and plan a little bit differently, right? And that's the kind of learning that I think the developed world, if you want to call it that, can take as assumed at a certain level. Here, like Ursula said, whether you're in corporate or you're in university, a big part of what you do with your employees is teach, especially young talent. And that adds a responsibility, accountability, and a mandate to over and above GP and revenue for any business.
When you're looking at acquiring skills, right, to the point that both of you are making, as an individual, right, if I need a skill, I need to go enroll on a course, maybe go to Themba and then spend 3 to 6 months learning what I'm learning, and then I've got the skill. But as an organization, there's always I'm going to call it a privilege or the advantage that you can literally just hire a skill today, like right now.
No, you can't. No.
I wish.
You disagree with that one?
Absolutely.
Because the thinking, then becomes, do you become an educator, like what you're saying, right? Or do you go out into the market, or do you breed your own,
The
your
problem
own
is
talent?
this machine is moving too quickly,
Yeah,
and the skills are not moving in line with this fast-moving engine.
yeah,
So the reality is, we actually do not have a job shortage issue in South Africa.
yeah,
We have all the jobs that are available for every single person where we sit now with our highest ever recorded unemployment statistics. The problem we've got is not the jobs. The problem we've got is the right sets of skills for the jobs. And that's also a new mind shift that we have to get comfortable with. So, and this is, we've got to get comfortable. We've said we've got to get comfortable with this constant change. We've got to get comfortable with, I actually call it this perfect imperfection. We've got to get comfortable with a new way and create a new way of being and doing in terms of those fit for purpose skills that we need in our organizations. Yeah. And that also extends not only into the schooling system, it also goes into tertiary institutions. How does the regulatory infrastructure, and in South Africa, we've got Umalusi, we've got the Council of Higher Education, we've got the CETAs, we've got QCTO, et cetera, how do we get those regulatory bodies moving in line with an upgrade of Salesforce, for example, every 4 months? Yeah. The regulatory system has got to move quicker so that when we're looking for those skills, if the system moved quickly, we would be able to just pick and choose and say, let's go and find that skill. Yeah. So there's this alignment with school, this alignment with tertiary institutions that starts to produce the available fit for purpose skills that we require. Yeah. And until such time as those elements don't deliver on that, we are not able to get the skill around the corner that we require. And I mean, we look at South Africa, we've got 5.1 US billion that the IDC report says It's going to bring into South Africa between 22 and 2026, 9.3 million new jobs, by the way, globally, and just under 32,000 new jobs in South Africa. So with this upgrade and with the constant changes that we're seeing on a daily basis, my responsibility in terms of growing the talent in Salesforce on the African continent actually is, how do we create an awareness of Salesforce, of the jobs that we've got? Yep. So there's a big focus on schools and universities. How do we assist partners like Bluesky to produce these absolute super skills, specializations that are highly, highly sought after? How do we build a skill base within a customer that is absolutely sustainable on their own and not necessarily always relying on others to keep their IP and to keep their engine going? We've got to upgrade the skill sets of organization or people in our organizations. And also, fortunately, we're involved in also looking at identifying the digital skills for South Africa, the job families, the roles, and private sector is also now starting to look at how do we impact this fast-moving machine that we're seeing with the type of frameworks that we require to produce the skill in the speed at the time that we need. We need the right skill at the right price at the right time.
So you've identified the problem and as an organization, you're already outlining, some of the things that you guys are possibly doing to try and, help yourself from that point of view. So maybe we can get a view, from someone who is, helping to feed the pipeline to say, the departments in organizations that are tasked, with looking at the learning, aspect and the skills uplift, part of things. What can they be doing,
The organizations that have departments dedicated to learning and development are probably failing a little bit already. If this is not an organizational mandate integrated into the lifeblood of what an organization does and how they impact their clients, it would be, I suspect it would be quite hard. We really need to start influencing this dynamic from where we are. Right? It's no longer good enough to be saying I'm too small to train people. Or if I train people, all that's going to happen is that they'll be poached as soon as they're done with our training, right? So I reckon that shift needs to become an organizational mandate. Yeah. Right. At Bluesky, we talk about our 4 Bs, right? We build the people that build the teams, that build the company, that build our clients, and then you could argue that builds the country and the fiscus. Yeah. And everybody wins in that chain, depending on where you look at it, right? And in this binary view of making money is evil and doing good is true purpose. You can actually do both really, really well, and everybody can do that from where they sit. Yeah. So in a village full of greedy people, the only person that dies are the people that share, right? And I think what we need to do is we need to turn this into a sharing village. So some of the crazier conversations I've had in maybe moments of frustration is with people that are speaking to our talent, and I call them and I say, hey, have you ever thought about maybe we could develop a relationship where we have career paths beyond organizational borders? If I'm really good at creating that 0 to 6 month talent, and you're brilliant at beneficiating that into experienced and senior talent, and I'm going to need competent managers in a year's time, then let's take Thabang through this journey. He goes and spends 6 months with you, and he comes back into organization and starts turning those golden nuggets that we battle to turn into jewelry because we don't have the capacity, we don't have the robust management development programs that some of our bigger firms have. They come back into organization and then turn the 6 people we've just pulled into even greater than what they were when they came in. This thing begins to gain momentum, and everybody wins. I do think we have some way to go towards developing a truly holistic, systemic perspective on how we can satisfy this demand? Because like Ursula said, there's plenty of work out there.
Yeah.
We just not doing enough to create the talent to fill those roles. And whatever perspective we have that's blocking us from doing that, we need to quickly move that person out of the way.
Yeah.
Or that thing out of the way, and get to the business of doing good business.
And building on that, like, it's not the people in the organization that are responsible for the learning. Okay? There might be an HR, or there might be a talent, there might be a learning and development department. Learning is every single person's responsibility. Every single person, whether you've just walked in the door or you've been there for 50 years, is responsible for learning. And we've also, we make the assumption that organizations have a workplace readiness element to it. It's like, there's lots of work that happens theoretically or, in a classroom. And the moment we sort of put them into the organization or into the business unit, we assume that there's a perfect utopia for a learning environment for these individuals to go and create the success and the legitimate work experience that they require.
Yeah.
And it's not there.
Yeah.
I think that's where we've gone wrong. And so when we are building and we're starting to realign and reaffirm this mindset that we require, the same effort that we need to put into the curriculums of what those fit-for-purpose digital skills need to look like is the same effort we need to work on the different environments of the organizations our people go into. And that in itself is a mind shift. That in itself is a new thinking of how we actually grow skill.
Yeah.
And what we've seen in the world of learning and development, in the past, learning was the responsibility of the organization. So they developed us. They said, you grow this, you do that course, do that, and you will, you're going to be fine. Organizations' roles are no longer that. The role of an organization is to create an environment that learning is, or the ability to learn is conducive.
Now looking or getting into the shoes of a person who is actually getting upskilled, right? What does that do for them, especially someone who's in an existing role, not necessarily someone who's working towards getting into the workforce, but someone who's already in it and, you come in and upskill them. What does that do for them?
I think that's what one of the most beautiful things are about Salesforce is, first and foremost, everybody is welcome. That means entry level, I have no experience, and I've just left university or I've left school or whatever the case might be, or I've been working for 20 years and I want a career change, whether I've been in hospitality or whether I've been in IT or whether I've been in manufacturing. Okay, everybody's welcome. So what's important about what Salesforce offers for the individual is, first and foremost, there's something called Trailhead, which is the most incredible learning platform, which is available to us for free. So it's not like everybody has to go and spend exorbitant amount of money to go and develop fit-for-purpose skills. I can be in an existing job and I could say, I'm interested in this thing called Salesforce. What can I do? We have something called Salesforce Fundamentals, which is really a big overview where we offer different, you can book on to a public event, a live lecture where we're introducing Salesforce, or your organization can have the resources and teach Salesforce fundamentals themselves. In fact, it's been developed in such a way that we can give Salesforce fundamentals to somebody that can go and learn or teach it under a tree. You then obviously will pay for your certifications, but the point is access is possible. We've also now introduced what we call an associate credential, which is we've got beautiful building blocks, is what I'm basically saying. So anybody that doesn't have a Salesforce anything, we've got learning journeys and we've got that infrastructure that enables, irrespective of where you start, there is a path for you and you can come in. So if you are a full stack developer and you're saying, let's have a look at this page of Salesforce, there's a space for you and there's a way that we can obviously get you now orientated into Salesforce. If you are an expert in a particular industry, there's a way that we can get you, inclined to what is required, whether you're a business analyst or a developer in a particular, wearing an industry hat from a Salesforce perspective. But what we have learned around the individual is access to data and access to devices is really where it starts. And when we look at our current climate, and you've got to say, money for data, or food in my stomach, I'm going to go for food in my tummy. Okay. So we've also got to get our heads around of how we open access to data and to devices, because we have massive open online courses, which we call MOOCs. We've got Trailhead. You've got the most unbelievable resources available to us online for free. Okay? So when we bring it down to the common denominator of the individual and the South African individual, we need to start to really, really think about what are the kind of resources we give and we make available for them, so that when we open this door of technology, of digital and access, that people are able to now get on board and run with it. But until we start to do that, and that's another opportunity of where we can come together with organizations from a creativity and from an innovation point of view. How do we solve this problem together? And I'm certainly seeing a different type of collaboration starting to happen between Salesforce and partners, Salesforce and customers. We're coming together and we're saying, okay, let's put the person at the center of what we're doing. Let's put jobs at the center of what we're doing. Let's put digital transformation and reinventing organizations or improving businesses at the center of what we're doing. And how do we each put skin in the game to create a different type of magic? And we're starting to see that shift start to happen. But we can't say solve the data problem or the laptop problem without a collective thought process around that.
Definitely a collective process is needed, bringing different stakeholders together to work, towards actually solving for that, big problem that's there. But Themba, I want to hear from you, same aspect about the individual, but more from the fact that you guys are probably getting in, a lot of people, through your pipeline. Can you talk to us about what, that skills uplift does in terms of actually bringing, more people, into the economy that would traditionally have been left behind?
Your question is an awesome one, right? Because it's nuanced. What does it do to the person, right? And the first thing, bringing somebody in, providing them with a space to develop, right, is you make them feel seen, right? So you look at some of the talent that joins Bluesky. These are kids that have been shooting in the gym for a year or two, and no team has picked them up. No agent has called. Nobody's promising them a paycheck. They're not in any league, right? I mean, if this was sports, they would be the weekend warriors who are literally out there playing for the love of the game. But the stakes are high, right? Because every day spent without a job is a day you don't have money. So the first thing I see when somebody makes it onto our program is this relief that somebody has seen me. Right? I'm a person, and somebody recognizes that I have capacity for greatness, and they respond to that opportunity in the most amazing ways. And you get almost immediate traction. I haven't seen entitlement since in the last 3 years, right? Because people are genuinely grateful about the opportunity that they have. They accept it with a humility that's awe-inspiring. And then it's about now, how do you accelerate this context for them? I mean, there's programs in South Africa where as soon as you sign up, you get a device, and you get 0 rated data, and you're A for away. But that first door opening, that I see you, and I mean, I think in pretty much every African language, if you say it in that language, I see you means I see the whole person. It's not just a visual thing. It's like I see you for who you are and what you're capable of, and I see success. And that for me is what these programs unlocks. And then the fact that Salesforce makes it easy for you to then continue on that journey makes it even better.
In economics, we talk about there's a Latin term that's used, ceteris paribus. All things being equal, and it's an imagined reality to say with this set of factors. So let's get our base assumptions and say that the axis is there. You've got an organization that's built, that culture of learning and upskilling, into their DNA and all of that. You've got those base assumptions. They still have to do the work of actually getting their people excited about upskilling themselves, because Themba spoke earlier on about the fact that you might find yourself in an organization where you have maybe older people being in the same organization with young people, and you have some of those divides, and you have older people saying, guys, I got a degree, or why do I still need to do this stuff? So how do you engender that? Because this culture around pivoting, this culture around constant change is something that organizations have to deal with, but you also have to do the work of making your people actually excited about that.
You've hit the nail on the head from a learning culture perspective, because what we also need to appreciate is that one size does not fit all. And when we say that learning organizations have to provide an environment that is conducive to evoking the joy, to evoking excitement in the skills that I'm wanting to learn, to producing new leaders that need to function in that space, creating the relevancy of the skill sets that we need to see. Yeah. That goes down to this new relationship of what learning has become it's come into the same breath as the new world of work, or the now world of work. Yeah. And that's why I say moving from learning as events to learning as breathing, learning in our everyday. Learning is not, you can have the richest learning experience at the coffee machine. Yeah. So it's this new orientation, and the leaders of organizations need to encourage that. They've got to give people time to learn. They've got to, you've got to create spaces for learning. You create learning hours, lunch and learn, talk about vulnerability, because learning is failure as well. Guys, this is what we did and it really messed up here. And let's start to really encourage people to have that level of engagement in a learning environment that ultimately produces the results that we want to see in terms of a successful business. But no size fits all. And that's why talent is complex. Yeah. And the world of work is complex today.
It's complex, but not complicated, right? And that's what I think we need to make peace with. Yeah. It's not easy peasy by any means, but if you apply yourself, you can figure it out. And the reason why I smiled when Ursula spoke about, your greatest learning experience of the day can come at the coffee machine. First day at Bluesky, rookie, right, walks up to the machine, right? Press Americano, put my Americano cup there, and this thing goes. And Sis Nelly, who's the lady who takes care of us in the office, goes, yo, Themba. And then she presses 6 buttons, and all of a sudden this thing comes down and the lights are green again, right? And then she proceeded to go, when you want to make an Americano, you press this button, this button, this button, this button, in sequence. HR, IT exec, right? Yeah. Couple of degrees, being shown how to use technology carefully and mindfully by somebody who realizes that I'm going to embarrass myself if I don't get this right. Yeah. And I think that's where we are, right? If we accept that we don't know anything, don't know everything, and learning can come from the most unlikely places and unlikely people, we'll be fine. And that's the mindset, right? If you are, and I talk to my 10-year-old, everybody likes a smart person, but nobody likes a smart A word, right? Yeah. There's a distinct difference, and humility and acceptance is big. And that's what we try to infuse the people that join our organization with. Open up yourself to the fact that you don't know everything and you're going to learn from some unlikely teachers, and you'll be okay. Whether I think it's Linda Saunders who hands out trailhead little cards to every single Uber driver she bumps into, because you can do trailheads whilst you're waiting for your next pickup to the airport on your device, because you have it, you're running Uber on it, right? Already, you have access. And for me, like that practical stuff is important. So I think that openness, like the work is crowbarring the mind open to saying, hey, there's space for more in there.
Yeah. How do people and people in organizations make the case to become learning organizations, to make these investments in learning?
Three things. A wise woman I used to work with used to say that learning is the new earning, right? Critical. If you aren't learning as an organization and as a team, as an individual, you're probably not hitting your targets.
Yeah.
Number two, if you're not learning, you're going backwards, because information, markets, skills move forwards. They're not static.
Yeah.
Right. And the third thing for me is that the organization will go as the leadership does. So you can't get a meeting with me between 4 and 5 on any day, because it's proudly booked out as learning time. Now, if you want to meet me between 4 and 5, you better be talking to me about something that's more important than me sharpening my sword or burnishing my shield. Yeah. And that's often a difficult value proposition to me. Right? Yeah. But I'm unashamed about the fact that I've booked time. And a lot of people, who maybe aren't at the same level that I am in the organization, are going, but how do you do that? And I'm like, in Outlook, you schedule a meeting and you you just do it, and you book, and it's recurring forever. Yeah. Learn and earn, right? There's nothing static. You need to keep moving. You have to become a shark. Sharks die when they stop moving. Yeah. And then the third thing, that if you are at any level of influence, right, whether you have 1 million followers on TikTok or you're an executive in an organization, model the behavior you want to see, and learning has to be one of them.
All right. I like the learning as earning, and I think that's a good place for us to end today's discussion. It's really been rich with a lot of experience that the both of you are bringing to the table, and especially looking at the evolution of the space and how the skill space has evolved over time and has evolved with technology. How are we thinking about your technical skills versus your soft skills, and how do you balance the two? And also at the same time looking at how both of you are advocating to say that organizations do need to have that mindset shift. And the mindset shift, instead of looking at it as something that's airy-fairy or nice to have, rather look at it as something that's directly going to impact your bottom line, because this thing is needed for survival. So that brings us to the end. But before we let you guys both go, very quickly, I'm going to ask both of you to be brief on this one. We have a tradition here on Techforce Africa, and where we ask, our last question to each of you is, what is the best and worst career advice that you've ever had?
I shouldn't go first.
Thanks. I think the worst career advice I think anyone could be given, or certainly is when you are labeled as something, or you can't do something, or you can't sell, or you can't project manage, or whatever the case. It's like when you take that as life into you because somebody has labeled you as something, or not being able to do something, that's very dangerous. So be careful of what you take into consideration, or what you take to heart, because that can certainly lead you down the wrong end. And because we can easily be influenced by people's words, so be very cognizant of what people speak into you, and whether it's life or whether it's death. And the best advice is I walked into a room once and the CEO was sitting there and he leaned back with his hands behind his ears. And he said to me, you know, Ush, if you want to be the CEO, you can be the CEO. And he spoke life into me. And those words changed the trajectory of my life and my career. And, you know, so words are very powerful. They can either kill us or they can really, really uplift us.
Worst career advice? Shut up. Best career advice? Show up.
I like that. Short, straight to the point. I like that. So words is life, and then show up and shut up. So thank you so much, Ursula. Thank you so much, Themba, for being with us today. So thank you so much for watching this edition of Techforce Africa. Really important, just understanding some of the issues around people, just around skills and how technology is actually helping to actually increase some of that. And also, you know, looking at how do we face the skills gap for today and prepare ourselves for what's going to happen in future. What's really important that's come out from today is the fact that we need to move away from, you know, looking at, you know, some of the hard skills of today, but looking at how do you deal with the uncertainty of the future, because the skill set of today will likely be either differently valued or positioned in a different way at some point in that future. And this was a great discussion illuminating how we can go about doing that and how organizations can get ahead of that particular trend. So thank you so much for watching this edition of Techforce Africa, where we look at the issues that are affecting technology businesses in Africa.